The cooling fans of the server rack were the only constant in the room, a low industrial hum that usually helped me think. Today it sounded like something trying not to die. I didn't look up when the glass door hissed open behind me. I knew the cadence of those footsteps, sharp, rapid, a little uneven. Stress always shows up in the way a person moves, and Mira Campbell was carrying the weight of half a skyscraper on her shoulders. "Tell me you have good news, Judah." I kept my eyes on the terminal. My fingers stayed on the mechanical keyboard moving because stopping would mean thinking about the consequences. Define good. If you mean the hardware's salvageable, yes. If you mean the unauthorized script stopped before it touched personnel files, that depends on how fast the person who planted it wanted to burn you. I hit enter and watched the quarantine process lock down another process tree. Only then did I swivel my chair. Mira stood in the doorway, with her arms crossed over a crisp white blouse that looked like it had never met a wrinkle. She was immaculate in the way CEOs learn to be hairset, makeup, set, voice set. But the small failures were there if you knew where to look. The shallow breathing, the way her fingers gripped her own elbow like she was holding herself together. "Ander is circling," she said. Her voice dropped on his name. "He knows the system is down. He's already called an emergency board meeting for Friday. If I can't present the quarterly projections because my laptop is bricked, he's going to push for a vote." There it was. She hadn't come to the server room because she needed a technician. She'd come because she needed a lifeline. "He won't get the chance," I said. It came out calm because I made it calm. In her world, everything was a fire. In mine, you build fire breaks and you keep your hands steady. I turned back to the rack, popped the side panel, and pointed at the port. "I'm pulling an image of your drive now. We'll bypass the corrupted sector and rebuild the file table. Your projections will open. But first," I added, "I need your personal machine, the one you sync with the main server. If you connected them recently, the infection might have jumped." Her gaze flicked to her bag. "It's personal," she said. Not coy, not flirtatious. Defensive, like the word was a shield. "I'm not here to judge your playlists," I said, softer than before. "I'm here to remove a rootkit." Her eyes sharpened. "A rootkit? Yeah." I straightened. This wasn't you clicking a bad link. Someone planted it. Physical access. Somebody walked into your office and plugged in a drive. The color drained from her face just enough to notice. Inside the building, inside your office. For a second, she didn't speak. The server hum filled the space between us. Her jaw tightened, then steadied. "I need access," I repeated. "Now, while it's still hot." Mira opened her bag and pulled out a sleek silver laptop. She held it like it was expensive and also dangerous. "Fix it," she said. It wasn't begging. It was an order that had slipped just slightly into a request. "Go upstairs," I told her. "Your job is to look like you're not bleeding. Mine is to stop the bleeding." She held my gaze for a beat. I watched her shoulders drop a fraction like a tight strap had finally loosened. Then she nodded, once decisive, and placed the laptop on my desk. When her fingers brushed mine, her skin was cold. 2 hours later, the building had quieted. The cleaning crew had come and gone, leaving behind the smell of lemon disinfectant and the faint squeak of recently mopped tile. Mira was still upstairs, probably on her third call with someone pretending this wasn't an emergency. Her laptop sat open on my workbench. I scrubbed registry keys, killed malicious processes, traced the beacon code to its callouts. Whoever wrote it had been sloppy. Cheap, fast, effective. A lot of people think hacking is magic. It isn't magic. It's paperwork with teeth. The scan finished. A clean green check mark. I clicked through recovered folders to make sure the file system wasn't lying to me. Q3 financials. Board deck _ final. Marketing strategy. Then a folder labeled DCIM_backup_2008 flashed in the list. The thumbnail generator stuttered, then populated. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a photo. A scanned Polaroid. A younger Mira, early 20s, maybe perched on the hood of a beat-up sedan. Cut-off denim shorts, a paint-stained band tee, hair wild from humidity. She was laughing, head-back eyes crinkled shut like she didn't care who saw. It wasn't the beauty that stopped me. It was the absence of armor. "Is it done?" Her voice hit from behind me. I minimized the window, but not fast enough. Mira stood in the doorway, holding a paper cup of coffee. She walked in, eyes flicking to the screen, then to my face. She stopped like she'd caught herself walking into glass. "You saw it," she said. I didn't pretend. I turned the monitor slightly so she didn't have to crane her neck. It surfaced during the integrity check. She came closer, set the coffee down too hard, then stared at the photo as if it might bite. "God," she breathed, and a short laugh escaped her, dry, almost annoyed at herself. "Look at that. No plan, no money, just chaos. I keep meaning to delete that folder." Her hand hovered over the trackpad. I moved without thinking and covered her hand with mine light, brief enough to stop the motion. I released her the second her eyes met mine. "Don't delete it," I said. She blinked. "Why? It's embarrassing." "I'm 39, Judah. I run a company. People would eat that girl alive." I looked at the photo again, and then at the woman beside me. The Mira in the picture had sunlight on her skin. The Mira in the room had sleeplessness under her eyes and steel in her spine. "The lines you're trying to hide," I said, "aren't damage. They're proof you survived your way here." Her throat moved as she swallowed. I kept my voice even because if I let warmth show, it would show too much. "Time has only made you more perfect." The server room didn't get quieter, but it felt like it did. Mira stared at me like she wasn't sure she'd heard right. Then her lips pressed together, not in anger, like she was holding something back. "My laptop," I said, because work was safer. I closed the diagnostic window, terminated the session, and lifted the machine toward her. "Clean. Rootkit is gone. Your files are intact." She took the laptop and held it against her chest for a second before remembering how to be composed. "Thank you," she said. "It's my job." Her eyes stayed on me a moment longer. Then she turned to leave. At the door, she stopped, glanced back at the coffee she'd brought, and slid it closer to my keyboard. Black. 2 sugars. Exactly how I drank it. 3 days after that were a masterclass in corporate warfare. Ander Parker smiled too much. He used people's first names like he owned them, and he drifted through the floor like a bad smell no one could officially complain about. Procurement set me up at a temporary station outside Mira's office, open plan glass walls, visibility high enough to discourage stupid decisions. Officially, I was there to monitor network stability. In reality, I was there because someone had already walked into Mira's office once. And Mira didn't have the luxury of being alone. On Tuesday, Ander leaned against my partition like he paid my invoice. "Judah," he said, breezy. "Can you believe this weather? I didn't look up from the logs. It's October in Chicago, Ander. The sky does this for fun." He chuckled like we were friends. The folder in his hand was too clean, too empty. "How's the restoration going? Mira must be a wreck." "Systems are stable," I said. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. "And security?" he asked. I finally lifted my gaze. "Security is being rebuilt from the inside." His smile held, but his eyes cooled. "Be careful, Judah. Contractors are easy to replace." "So are executives," I said. He pushed off the partition, still smiling, and walked away. I waited until he turned the corner before I called Lee at the data center. Tell me you pulled the packet trace, I said. I pulled it, Lee replied. Beacon callouts went to a server in the Caymans, but the install timestamp matches keycard entries for Mira's office. Tuesday night, 8:45 p.m. Who entered log says maintenance. Lee paused, but the maintenance guy was on the third floor. Camera feed shows a gray hoodie going into Mira's office, cap low, and the shoes Lee added. I closed my eyes. Let me guess. Italian loafers, he said. Send me everything I said, raw plus your notes. I hung up and looked through the glass wall into Mira's office. She was pacing on a caul chin, lifted like a blade. The office thermostat sat on the wall behind her, set to Arctic. I got up, walked to the break room, and made peppermint tea. Not a grand gesture, just something warm that didn't ask for anything. When I entered her office, she had her phone pressed to her ear. I held up the mug. She hesitated, then nodded. I set it on her coaster and, without making a speech, bumped her thermostat up 3 degrees. She covered her phone's mouthpiece. Did you just change my temperature? You run a Fortune 500 company, I said. You can afford 3 degrees. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then she shook her head, like she was trying not to laugh during a crisis. On my way out, she murmured, "You're impossible." I glanced back. No. I'm calibrated. That was the first time that week her shoulders loosened instead of bracing harder. Wednesday morning, she found me before the elevators. She wasn't in a blazer this time. Same crisp white blouse sleeves rolled to her forearms. Her hair was down in soft waves, the kind of choice that looks effortless but takes intention. She looked like she'd slept for 20 minutes and decided to wear it like strategy. In her hand was a Polaroid, not a file. A real photo edges soft thumbprint smudges on the white border. She didn't hold it up like evidence. She held it like something fragile she wasn't sure she was allowed to have. Okay, she said, aiming for light. Be honest. Was this the version you were talking about? She tried to make it a joke. It didn't fully land. I stared at the photo and felt something tighten in my chest that had nothing to do with anger. You brought it to work. I almost didn't, she admitted. Her voice dipped quiet enough that the passing employees blurred into background sound. But I went home last night and found the original in a box. I stood there holding it like an idiot. And then I thought, if you can peel a rootkit out of a machine without flinching, you can probably handle one old photo. She slid it across the edge of my desk, not pushing it into me, just offering it. I didn't touch it right away. Mira watched my hands. Then she looked away first, as if that small vulnerability cost her something. I finally picked it up, careful with the corners. You look happy, I said. Her breath came out slow. I was, for about 5 minutes. Then the world remembered it, had bills. I set the photo down between us. You're still here, I said. That matters more than the 5 minutes. She met my gaze. The teasing faded, replaced by something quieter and steadier. Ander keeps hovering, she said. He's trying to bait me into a mistake. He won't get one, I said. She nodded once. Good. Because I don't have the energy to fight him and fight everything else. A coworker walked past, slowing like he was curious. I didn't say anything. I just shifted, stepping closer to Mira's side so the space between her and the hallway narrowed. Not dramatic. Just enough that anyone trying to get to her would have to go through me. Mira noticed. She didn't step away. That afternoon, Ander tried something uglier. He intercepted Mira at the copy station. I saw it through the glass, his posture too casual, his angle too blocking. Mira's shoulders tightened her chin, lifting the way it did when she refused to show fear. I was already moving. By the time I reached them, Ander had a hand on her forearm. Not gentle, not friendly. "Mira," he was saying, voice sweet like poison, "if you just take my advice, we could handle this quietly. No need to embarrass yourself in front of the board." Mira's eyes cut to his hand. "Let go, Ander." He didn't. I stepped in close enough that he had to look up at me. I kept my tone low, the same tone I used when a system was about to cascade into failure. "Remove your hand," I said. Ander blinked. "Excuse me, there are cameras," I said, nodding toward the corner dome. "And your optics are already terrible. Remove your hand." Mira didn't waver. Her voice carried clear and sharp. "Now." Ander's fingers loosened like he'd touched something hot. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Everyone is so dramatic." "Not everyone," I said. "Just people who get caught." His smile finally cracked at the edges. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping for me alone. "You think you're a hero, Judah? You're a contractor. You'll be gone when the board cleans house." I held his gaze and let the silence sit there long enough to make him uncomfortable. "I finished the work," I said. "What you're seeing now is courtesy." He straightened, jaw ticking, then walked away. Mira exhaled slowly. When she looked at me, there was relief there and something else. Something like the moment a person realizes the door they were leaning against is actually locked. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I did," I replied. Back at my station, I built the trap. I created honey token folders, fake financial decks, fake board memos, each embedded with a unique beacon that would call home the second someone opened them. I loosened permissions in a way that looked like carelessness, but was actually a funnel. I logged every request, every click, every failed attempt. Then I did the part most people skip. I documented it. Timestamps, hashes, screenshots, chain of custody. Because catching a thief is one thing. Making sure the thief can't talk his way out of it is another. Thursday evening, the storm broke. Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the city lights into smeared watercolors. Most of the staff had gone home. I was packing up my gear when a sharp crash came from Mira's office. Not a digital crash. Glass. I was through her door in seconds. A vase lay shattered on the floor. Mira stood by the window, both hands gripping the edge of her desk, so hard her knuckles were white. "Mira." She turned. Her eyes were wide bright with a panic she was trying to strangle down. "He has the email," she said. "Ander." He sent me a screenshot. I stepped carefully around the broken glass and held my hands, visible palms open. "Show me." She unlocked her phone and handed it to me. The screenshot was a photo of a computer screen, a private email thread from years ago. Not business, not strategy. Medical and personal things no one should have to explain to a boardroom. "He's threatening to leak them tomorrow morning before the vote," she said, voice rough. "Unless I resign tonight." She pressed her fingers to her forehead, then dropped her hand, as if she was ashamed of the gesture. "If those get out, it's not just the job." I studied the image. The formatting was wrong. The angle was wrong. "He printed them," I said. She looked at me like I'd missed the point. "How does that help?" "It helps because it means he didn't just receive them," I said. "It means he accessed them." I handed the phone back, and he documented intent. "That message is blackmail, Mira. That's not board politics. That's a felony." Her breathing hitched. I stepped closer, not to crowd her, just to pull her attention onto something solid. "Look at me," I said. She did. "Breathe," I told her. "In, out, again." She tried. The first breath shook. The second steadied. "You are not resigning tonight," I said. "You're going home. You're getting dry clothes. You're taking a shower. You're sleeping. I can't sleep, she whispered. I have to write a statement. I have to. You don't have to do anything except follow instructions, I said firm. This is my problem now. I reached for her hands. I didn't pull her into me. I just wrapped my fingers around hers until the tremor slowed. I will handle this, I said. But I need you to do one thing. What? Trust me enough to stop touching the fire, I said. Her eyes flicked to our hands, then back to my face. She nodded. Okay. I grabbed her coat from the rack and held it open. She slipped into it. A small motion, but it changed her posture like the coat gave her permission to be human for a minute. Keys, I said. She hesitated, then reached into her bag and placed her keys in my palm. I didn't comment. I just closed my fingers around them and started walking. I'm driving you home, I said. It's raining sideways, and you're not in a condition to pretend you aren't. The drive to her building was quiet at first. Wipers thumped. Water hissed off the tires. I took Lakeshore Drive longer, darker, less traffic, because the black water on one side and the city on the other had a way of making people breathe. Halfway there, Mira glanced at the cup holder. You drink coffee like you argue, she said. Too strong, no room for doubt. I kept my eyes on the road. You changed your own thermostat today. That's your miracle for the week. She huffed a small laugh and then shook her head. I didn't change it. You did. You didn't stop me, I said. That got her quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. When we pulled up to her building, I put the car in park and left the engine running. Do not check your email tonight, I said. Turn your phone off. If someone rings your doorbell, don't answer. She unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't open the door. Why are you doing this? She asked. It's outside the scope of your contract. I stared through the windshield at the wet street lights. I fix things, I said, and I don't like watching someone who built something get bullied out of it. Judah. I turned toward her. She reached out and rested her fingertips on my forearm. Warm now? You didn't have to come back, she said. I know, I answered. She studied my face as if she was cataloging it for later, the way a person does when they think something might be taken away. I covered her hand with mine and squeezed once. Not a plea, not a promise. Just contact. Go inside, I said. Rest. She nodded and finally opened the door. At the lobby entrance, she paused and looked back at me through the rain-streaked glass. I lifted 2 fingers in a small salute. She rolled her eyes like she hated how much it worked, then disappeared into the elevator. I didn't go home. I went back to the office. All night I pulled logs and cross-referenced keycard entries with printer records. I checked badge histories. I pulled camera feeds. I verified timestamps, then verified them again. Digital footprints don't vanish. They get buried. Around 3 a.m., I found the piece that made my hands go still. A print job sent to the executive printer on the 40th floor. Timestamped years ago. User ID A.Parker. File name MC_private_emails.pdf. He hadn't stumbled across those emails. He'd accessed her account with an override he wasn't supposed to have. He'd printed them. Then he'd saved them for a rainy day. I compiled everything. Hallway footage of the hoodie entering Mira's office, the keycard mismatch, the printer log, the screenshot of his threat, the honey token beacon pings that showed someone had tried to open my fake folders from Anders' credentials. I saved it to 3 encrypted drives. Not because I was paranoid, because I had met Anders Parker. By sunrise, the rain had stopped. The sky was bruised purple. I washed my face in the break room sink, straightened my collar, and brewed a fresh pot of coffee. The board meeting was at 9 o'clock. The conference room was glass-walled, visible to the entire floor. Board members sat around a long mahogany table like vultures in expensive suits. Mira sat at the head pale but composed hands, folded in front of her like she was holding her own pulse. Anders stood at the far end with a manila envelope in his hand, smug like he'd already won. I wasn't invited. I walked in anyway. Anders' head snapped toward me. "This is a closed session. Get out." Mira's eyes lifted. Surprise flickered, then something steadier behind it. "Judah." I ignored Ander and walked straight to the table. I placed a flash drive in front of the chairman, then a stack of papers. "I apologize for the interruption," I said to the room. "But there is evidence regarding the security breach you need to see before any votes are cast." The chairman frowned. "This is irregular." "So is planting malware on the CEO's computer," I said. Anders' voice rose. "He's lying to protect her." I plugged my laptop into the projector. Hallway footage filled the screen, a man in a gray hoodie entering Mira's office. "This is the individual who installed the rootkit," I said. "Note the shoes. Italian loafers. Distinctive." Several pairs of eyes dropped slowly to Anders' feet. He tried to tuck his shoes back under the table like that would erase them. I clicked to the next screen. Printer logs. Mr. Parker used an administrative override to access Miss Campbell's private email archive. I said, keeping my wording clean. He printed those emails on the executive printer. This log shows the job, the timestamp, the user ID, and the file name. A low murmur rolled through the room. I clicked again. And last night I added this message was sent to Miss Campbell. The screenshot of his threat appeared. A board member leaned forward. "Is that extortion?" "Yes," I said. Anders shot to his feet, chair scraping. "You can't. This is sit down," the chairman said, voice like gravel. Anders didn't sit at first. Then the security guard at the door shifted. Anders sat. I turned slightly toward Mira. She met my gaze. Her expression wasn't grateful in a desperate way. It was quiet, focused, like she'd recognized something she could rely on. "I forwarded the logs to outside counsel," I said. "They can verify the chain of custody. The cyber crimes unit can verify it as well." I unplugged my laptop. I think that's all I said. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for thanks. I walked out. At noon, I sat on a bench in the park across the street watching pigeons fight over a crust of bread like it was a corporate merger. My phone buzzed. "Meet me downstairs." "Please." 10 minutes later, Mira came through the revolving doors and jogged across the street, dodging a taxi with the kind of reflex you get when you've been under pressure too long. She didn't look like a CEO. She looked like the girl in that Polaroid, breathing alive, not hiding behind the suit. "He's gone," she said, breathless. "Escorted out by security. The board voted unanimously to keep me." She swallowed and then lifted her chin, as if she was testing how it felt. "They offered you a permanent role, Chief Information Security Officer." I watched her carefully. This was a line people cross without noticing. Work, power, romance. It gets messy fast. "Send the offer to my lawyer," I said. "We'll talk Monday. Cleanly. When you've had sleep and I'm not running on caffeine and adrenaline." Her eyes held mine. Then, instead of flinching, she gave a small nod, almost amused. "Okay," she said. "I like that." She sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed. "Judah," she said quieter, "you saved me in there." I presented facts, I replied. "No," she said, and her voice softened on the word. "You showed up when I needed someone solid to stand next to. You didn't make it about you?" She reached into her bag. The Polaroid came out again. This time she didn't hold it between us like a test. She looked down at it, first thumb tracing the white border. "I brought it back today because..." She exhaled, then tried to smile and failed halfway. Because you were right. That girl wasn't weak. She was just loud. She turned the photo over and showed me the back. A date. Her name. Her handwriting slightly shaky, like it belonged to someone who hadn't learned to sign contracts with a steady hand yet. I used to keep this hidden, she said. Like if anyone saw it, they'd think I didn't belong where I am. She looked up. The sunlight caught in her eyes. Today it feels like proof I can survive, she added. I didn't trust my voice for a second, so I let the pause exist. Mira watched me waiting, not pushing. When I spoke, it came out simple. I'm glad you didn't delete it. Her mouth trembled into a small smile. She slid the photo back into her bag carefully, like it mattered. Then she faced me fully. You set boundaries for everyone, she said, even for me. I lifted an eyebrow. You're complaining. She gave a quiet laugh. No, I'm noticing. She paused, then asked it straight, like she was used to boardrooms. Is there a boundary here? I looked at her hands. No rings, no flashing signals. Just a woman who'd been cornered and still walked out on her feet. I'm not interested in being your mistake, I said. And I'm not interested in being your secret. Her face didn't close. Her shoulders didn't rise in defense. Okay, she said. Then tell me what you are interested in. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. You, I said. When you're not trapped. When you get to choose. Her eyes softened. She didn't rush. She didn't grab. She asked. I'm going to kiss you, she said quietly. If you want me to stop, say it. I held her gaze. I didn't move away. I didn't give her space like a coward. I leaned in a fraction, closing the distance she'd offered. Don't stop, I said. Her hand came up and cupped my jaw. Her thumb brushed my cheekbone like she was making sure I was real. Then she kissed me. Not a performance. Not a victory lap. A clean, certain choice. I met her halfway, one hand, settling at her waist, steady pressure, no force, pulling her close because she'd already stepped in. Coffee lingered on her breath. When she pulled back, she didn't break the space between us. Her forehead hovered near mine, warm in the cool air. I have a press conference in an hour, she murmured. Probably, I said. She smiled, and it was smaller than her CEO smile. Realer. Come with me, she said. Not on stage, just with me. Down the sidewalk, into the building, where people can see I didn't break. I stood. She stood with me. She offered her hand. I took it. As we walked back toward the glass tower, she didn't squeeze too hard, and I didn't let her pretend I wasn't there. Our hands were locked like a decision. In the lobby, the doorman looked up. Staff glanced over, whispers starting and dying at the sight of her posture. Mira didn't flinch. In the elevator, the VP of marketing stepped in and blinked at our joined hands. Mira didn't introduce me as her contractor. She didn't introduce me as her employee. This is Judah, she said. Just Judah. And the way she said it made it enough. I used to think the strongest people were the ones who never showed a crack. The more I watched Mira, the more I realized that's not strength. That's just being tired in expensive clothes. Real strength looks like getting up, walking into the room, and facing the thing that's trying to take you out. It also looks like knowing when to let someone stand beside you without handing them the steering wheel. If you like stories where competence beats manipulation and the good guys don't have to beg for respect, stick around. More are coming.